Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been an amazing week. We were interviewed by Jack at number 27. He's in the UK and has a YouTube channel working on a Ferrari 308 like this. So that's how we kind of got to know each other through Facebook connections. But he saw the Crazy Lotus project that I undertook and decided to feature it on his channel, which was amazing. So thanks so much to all the new viewers and subscribers. The response has been overwhelming, and I really appreciate it. So if you caught the last episode, you know we have a running Lotus Esprit. We'll say barely running at least, but it's a huge step in the right direction. We had to overcome some electrical issues last week, so we're going to be looking at that today. And I've also got a new clutch hydraulic system, basically a new master cylinder and a new clutch release cylinder to install to see if we can get a functioning clutch. Not particularly looking forward to that because doing the master cylinder is going to require crawling underneath the dash, and I still don't really know if anything is living in there yet. So for now, I'm going to distract myself working with the electrical problems. All right, I've got my roadkill style to-do list, and we're going to start with the electrical system. And if you catch the little clip last week where I said this would be anticlimactic if it doesn't work, and then it didn't work, I have a reasonably good idea why. So when you hotwire a car, as I mentioned last week, I'd never hotwired a car. And what I did is I disconnected the ignition switch from the car, and then I built a little jumper to basically do the job of the ignition switch. And the reason I had to disconnect the ignition switch is because of this. There's somebody, I guess, tried to start the car without a key at some point, and this switch is completely ruined. So when I disconnected it, this is all kind of convoluted under the dash. And when I made a jumper, the jumper I made, I plugged into the switch instead of plugging it into the car. So I didn't realize that till about the middle of the week when I was at Sports Car World trying to get a new switch. Well, it turns out that Lotus had the switch made. We don't know by who, and we don't know if they borrowed it off another vehicle, but as far as I know, nobody else has figured out what vehicle it came off of. But Sports Car World, aka Ragogo Racing, had a used one that is similar, but it's actually off of a S3 Esprit, which is an earlier car. So our wire colors are different. So I'm gonna need to go in here with the multimeter and figure out what does what on this switch, and then we should have a functioning switch. So you have to push that to turn it out. So, okay. The way these switches work is it's sort of I'll call it a cascade effect. So you start with power at one point, and I've actually gone through the Esprit manual for the original switch because I have all the color codes for that. I don't have an S3 manual here at the house. I might have one at the shop, but I totally forgot it. Anyway, so you start with power at one port, and then as you turn the key, you get power at additional spots. So the way this goes is, I think, is you start with power at the brown wire, and then as you click the key to the next position, you should get power at the white wire, and then I guess power at this, but nothing's connected there. And then the next position, you get power at the yellow wire. And then the final position, which is a momentary switch, is your starter signal, which I know is the white with the red stripe. So we got to figure out if this switch works the same way. So like I said, I wrote down what the connections are on the original. Now we just got to figure out what wire color it corresponds to on the new switch. So I got a handy dandy multimeter, and I should have got some alligator clips with that so that I don't have to hold the wires. We're going to turn this over to the continuity setting. Cool. All right, so I think the best way to do this is to start in the all the way on position and then work our way backwards, because we should have continuity at everybody. We're going to assume brown is power, because it was power on the last one. So this connector is really gross and falling apart. So we're going to cut these off anyway and solder it to the original connector. that'll come next, or at least soon. Okay, so we got brown, which we feel to be power. It's a little beepy. I got a little bit of corrosion, but yeah, that's definitely continuity there. Continuity there. Nothing there. Oh, that makes sense. That's our white one with the red stripe. That's the starter. Oh, and also nothing there. Ah, I see where that one goes. This fifth one over here is the key buzzer. So he doesn't really have anything to do with the starter switch other than the key will buzz when you've got it in. So let's write that down. That's white, black. Okay, and we did not have continuity at the white red, so we're pretty sure that's start. And brown is power, so that's still brown. Okay, so let's go back one position. We should lose continuity at one of these guys. To the brown, so we lost it at the white blue, and we lost it at, okay, well, the switch works a little different, and it seems like there basically is no auxiliary connection, you know, like to run the radio when you're sitting in the high school parking lot. So it appears this switch doesn't have that at all. It just goes, you're basically all in, which is not unheard of with European cars, and it does make our wiring quite a bit easier. Stop the time lapse because I was running out of solder, and you probably saw me struggling because these wires are really thick and it's hard to get enough heat in them to really get the solder all the way through the wire. So, but it looks like the wires on the new switch are thinner, so they should tin up a lot easier. And then we're gonna slide some heat shrink on there and solder it all together. And I won't bore you with another time lapse of me struggling to solder that. Believe it or not, I'm actually pretty good at soldering. So I'll be right back, and this will be magically done. And we're done. The secret to my success was I had to go get this massive soldering iron that I used to use when I was putting together radio controlled cars, because my little cordless weller just did not have enough heat to thoroughly melt the solder into the wire. But the big boy got it done, and now we're ready. So before I can just throw this on the car and test it, I have to actually go reverse my statement about the Lucas relays not working, since that turned out to be my fault. So I got to go unbolt the relay parts that I bolted together and reinstall them like they originally were. Okay, the relays are wired back like they originally were, and the key switch is plugged in at the steering column. Now your relay's clicking. Okay, that is off. I think I actually have to push this to turn it to pull the key out, but so that seems to be on. So that's working. The car won't start right now because I was running it on an external fuel pump and an external fuel tank last weekend. Here's the part I didn't really look forward to today. I got to get under the dash up to the top of this clutch pedal here to release that pin so that I can get the clutch master cylinder out. At least I'm seriously amazed. It's honestly only been maybe 2 or 3 minutes since that last clip. This car wants to live. It's given up parts, and doing things pretty easily. Well, I knew I cursed myself as soon as I said things were going easy. This is the clutch master cylinder. You can see the fluid turned into something. The fitting on the top is pretty seized. I've got some penetrating spray sitting on that. And in order to get this off, I actually have to loosen all the nuts that hold the brake booster on. And the clutch line itself is actually flexible past this first 180-degree bend. So I can't get a tool in right now to get after that fitting, but I'm hoping once I get the booster moved out of the way, I can slip this out, have enough flex in the line that I can actually get a good wrench on that fitting. Well, it's going mostly as planned. The fitting has actually turned a little bit, but it seems to be the fitting is seized against the brake line itself, clutch line itself. So I sprayed it with some penetrating lube. I'm gonna let it sit for a while I go take a break. So I got the slave cylinder off. Obviously the new one's on the bottom and the old disgusting one is on top. I need to swap the rods and then I can put it back in the car. I've got the slave cylinder off, that's the line right there, and I don't have the master cylinder back on yet, but I wanted to switch to the release cylinder back here before I put the master in because I wanted to blow some shop air through the line since that salty looking gross stuff was in the master cylinder. I want to make sure there wasn't any in the line. And based on the mess around here, after you can see drops of brake fluid on just about everything, that means the line is flowing certainly free enough to work. So now we're going to move forward with replacing the slave cylinder and then come back to the master cylinder. This is the old slave cylinder and the new slave cylinder. And one of the cool things about Lotus is a lot of times they source parts from other places. One of the times they didn't do that's the ignition switch. That's why I ended up paying $400 for a used ignition switch. But these parts, this is off I want to say a Land Rover 100, like the Jeep looking ones that we don't really have very many of in the US. And the master cylinder is off of like a 1960s Triumph TR250 or maybe a TR4. I was able to get both of these together for less than $100. So this is a lesson in what we call false economy. I bought a part that was cheaper, and what I should have done is just ordered it from JAE and gotten the right part. And what happened is this hole was too small to fit the fitting and the brake line that's on the Esprit. So I drove to 2 part stores and a hardware store and finally gave up because the adapter I need apparently doesn't exist, and ended up buying a tap and die set and actually drilled out the hole larger and rethreaded it so it'll fit the fitting. Unfortunately, this might work better than I thought because I didn't realize that the flare, I was worried because I didn't get a bottoming tap, so the threads at the bottom of this are not fully cut. But turns out at the bottom of the Lotus flare, the threads don't go all the way down anyway. So we have a pretty good chance of this actually sealing, which is kind of awesome. Okay, all right, that's as tight as I can get that. Now we just gotta rotate it back around magically at the right angle, stick it back on the car. Kristen helped me bleed the clutch, and we've got a working clutch hydraulic system now. Overall, not a bad day. We have a working clutch hydraulic system now with the new clutch master cylinder and a new clutch release cylinder, and Kristen helped me bleed it. We did go through quite a bit of struggle with the clutch release cylinder because I tried to save $1 and ended up wasting about 2 hours of my life. But it did manage to work and it's not leaking, so I'm very happy. So this time's video was a little longer than usual. Let me know in the comments if that's good or bad. Do you just want the highlights of what's going on, or do you like seeing me struggle through the entire day like today? Just let me know and I'll try to cater these to your liking. Thanks.